It's that time again, Our Town Live, where friends, family, people you know, and others you'd rather not know share with us their unique bits of wisdom. And now, here's Herb, your host, for another show.
Today, we're lucky to have Don Shapiro. He loves to develop great leaders, build cultures that perform, and help sales teams grow faster. He loves to discover the unknown and share what he's learned to make a difference in our lives and the organizations that he works for. Whether for a high-energy and fun speech or a consulting engagement, clients say he asks the questions no one ever asks. He believes that all we know is not all there is to know. He co-authored The Character-Based Leader, a reference everyone in business should read. He is a strong proponent about the customer's perceptions of value. With this belief, he has helped highly trained sales teams boost sales and win rates by over 20%. He disrupts our understanding of value and price. As a high-energy, fun, and interactive speaker, Don shares customized speeches and training programs about these discoveries. Don gave his first speech, and when he was 14, by 21, had delivered over 1,000 speeches. Don is a master at helping people realize their full potential as leaders, executives, and salespeople. Being locked up inside like the rest of us because of the virus, we are lucky to have this phenomenal coach with us today. Here he is, Don Shapiro. How has the issues with our current health situation been going out there for you and yours?
Well, it's interesting because I think a lot of people know, maybe they've heard on the news, that here in California was really ahead of everything in what they've done, maybe a bit more severe. My county, Riverside County, California, the Southern California area, east of the Los Angeles coastline. So we're inland. It's called the Inland Empire. That term goes back over 100 years. And our county was one of the first to declare an emergency, one of the first to shut down major sporting events and music festivals. Coachella Music Festival, the Parabas Open Tennis Tournament was shut down, the first to close its school system, the first mandatory requirement that everybody in the county had to wear a mask when they're outdoors. I mean, so we've really been, I just got to take my hat off to the county public health officer, Dr. Cameron. Unbelievably quick, effective, decisive response to everything going on. But it is crazy. I mean, my wife and I have been isolated since March 10th. That means that we have not been in a store or a public place since March 10th at all. We get our groceries through pickup from Walmart, and that's about it. We're healthy.
When you are working full-time outside or inside, what do you do? What do you specialize in?
Now that does create a challenge with this current environment. Professionally, I'm a management consultant and also obviously a speaker, educator in my fields of expertise, leadership, communications, how organizations operate, growth, sales, anything that has to do with organizations and the people in them. So it's both about people and organization. But to do that, 100% of my business for over 30 years has been with me going to my clients, either place of business or to a meeting facility, a hotel, conference, whatever it is, to conduct a speech or seminar. So everything I've done for over 30 years has been traveling to my clients, seeing them in person, or assessing things by visiting manufacturing plants or offices or traveling with salespeople. So here I am in a situation now where all of my business and how it's been conducted can't be done that way.
What do you think has been your biggest success in your 30-year career?
Biggest success? Oh, my goodness. Oh, what a tough question. Oh, gosh, how do I answer such a question? Career in my professional life as a consultant and speaker, I've worked with organizations in 36 different industries, and each situation, each challenge, each request was very different in what they needed. So it's like, how do you compare one to the other? The two things that jump out. There's two things that jump out at me. One is that I was asked to help an international nonprofit organization. It was a labor union based in Washington, D.C., one of the largest construction unions in the United States, to reorganize. They'd been in business, obviously, in existence over 100 years, and it become, that old 100-year nothing changed. And they saw themselves going downhill. And I came in when there was fresh leadership, and they asked me what to do. And I'm coming in, obviously, with, all this experience in business and what makes organizations successful. I have nothing to do with the background and the politics and the history of all these organizations. And I made very, very radical recommendations on complete restructuring of everything they were doing, and they did it. They did it all. And completely turned themselves around in major new ways, became very responsive to everyone in the construction industry, workers and contractors. And so I'm very impressed with that one. I guess that other than that, the biggest success I've seen is not just with one client, but multiple clients that were in the direct sales field, where they had a sales force calling on other businesses. And I was able to help those sales forces dramatically improve their results.
What do you feel has been your biggest failure? Where did you really mess up?
Oh boy. How many days, hours, weeks do we have for this conversation, Herb? I'll tell you what that is. And that is really clear to me. And it comes down to the old saying, Herb, you've heard this 1,000 times. Do what I say, not what I do. Have you heard that one? Okay. Now, as consultants, we have certain things that we know from best practices or study experience, all the expertise that we have, that we're always advising people of. And one of the things that we always advise clients of any size business is don't put your eggs in one basket. Don't rely on one customer. Don't rely on just that. You've got to always be knowing you're going to have more than one customer, always seeking new customers. This is standard. Almost every consultant makes this recommendation to their clients. And I did too, except that I got one client and they became so big and so demanding, and I got so involved with it that I literally didn't have any other clients. and I got comfortable with that. And then, of course, as with all consulting engagements, it after about 10 years, it came to an end. And I should have forced myself to be continuing to work with other clients, and I didn't. So I got caught short. That was a big lesson, and that's where I wasn't following my own advice.
I noticed when you sent me a request that I had asked for, you mentioned that you started a project a decade ago, how to explore what can make better choices and deal with change. And you wrote down a sentence, and it had a huge impact on me because probably 50 years ago, I heard Jerry Lewis say, "Life is a fork in the road. Take one."
I've been studying choices all my life, really. It's about how do we make a choice? How do we make a decision? How do we think? I've always been fascinated by this. I mean, it goes way back, way, way back. And one day, I was in a very long email exchange with my stepdaughter, Kristen. And she was really going through a bad time. One of those, that happens, And I mean, each of these emails was like the length of War and Peace. I mean, it was just ridiculously long. And about the third email, I was getting, I don't know, you go deeper and deeper, you get frustrated, because Kristen is the type with what I call paralysis by analysis. She keeps analyzing and questioning and analyzing. It doesn't get off the dime sometimes because she overthinks things. So at some point in this email, I said, Kristen, I said, life is a fork in the road. You're going to have to make a choice based upon something, and it's not necessarily going to be some logical analysis. You've got to go deeper into your heart and what you're really feeling, and come to terms with that, and listen to the guidance. And so that kind of led me down this whole path, and I created a Facebook page. I started connecting with people and interviewing people around the world, and looking at our choices. And I guess one of the biggest things I learned, and I saw it when I went back through my own history, I could see the pattern. And I saw it in some of the people and what they were saying, that we actually receive messages of guidance. We feel it inside of us. Where that message comes from is up to each person's individual belief system, of course. Is the message coming from God? Is it coming from some collective energy? However it is, I'm not going to get into the why and wherefore, because I don't know that. But we receive what you might call an intuitive sense, some feeling about something, and it turns out to be right. But sometimes we follow it, sometimes we ignore it. And so I believe that in these choices that we make, there's more to it than simply the logical analysis of we should do this or do that. You gotta feel the thing out. So I've been on this whole thing for a long time.
You believe in the longer view.
Yeah, I sort of do. Let me tell you a true story. Way back before I started my current business, I had a catering and baking company in the west side of Los Angeles. West side of Los Angeles, for those people in the rest of the world that don't know, that's the part that most people know about. That's Beverly Hills and Century City and Santa Monica and Hollywood and Venice Beach and all of the sort of famous areas. That's the west side, called the west side of Los Angeles, because it's right there from downtown to the ocean, and it's that certain area there. And so that's where I had my catering and baking company. And younger person, and I'm working 7 days a week, 12, 14 hours a day sometimes, and giving it my all. Not really, and I'm so busy, I'm not thinking about what I'm doing. I'm just doing it. I'm just so involved in it. I'm not reflecting on it. What is this, and should I be doing this? I'm just not. And then one day in December, and of course December is the busiest time of the year for catering and baking company, of course. In December, I came down with strep throat, 104-degree temperature, flat on my back. And so for 1 week, I was out of commission. I couldn't go to my business. I was just sitting there in the bed, and you don't care about anything else at that point normally when you're that ill. You're just there. And when I got back in the car a week later and drove back to the kitchen and opened the door to walk inside, at that moment, I knew that I shouldn't be there. That break that I was given allowed me a time to reflect that I hadn't had, to see that this wasn't where I belonged anymore. And I believe that illness was not an accident. I believe it was brought to me because there was no other way to stop me to think. And I've had those experiences repeatedly in my life. So that's one example of a life as a fork in the road, of a fork in the road choice by an event that sends you, by something that sends you a message, and you actually listen to the message, if that makes sense.
Sure. A lot of people call it a sixth sense.
Sixth sense, that's a good one, yes.
There are a lot of people who feel that the only thing in life that you can really control are your choices. Do you agree with that?
Oh, yes. That's absolutely true, but here is where the challenge comes from. And that is, are we actually aware of all the choices?